afternoon. I'm Sarah Fabish, Vice President for Grant Making and Scholarships. Welcome to the Grantseeker Information webinar. I will be presenting the webinar along with Jackie Downing, Director of Grant Making and Nonprofit Effectiveness, and Denise Canning, Grants Manager here at the Community Foundation. The goals of the webinar are to familiarize you with the responsive grants process at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven and the Valley Community Foundation. A few housekeeping items. The webinar is scheduled to end at 4:30 p.m. and we will make every effort to end promptly. You are able to type in questions that we can view on our screen. This is the only way for you to ask questions since you are muted. We will make every attempt to answer the questions during and after the webinar. If you are in the room with us, you can write your questions on the index cards provided to you and pass the cards to the front to us. We will be stopping at points throughout the webinar to answer these questions. If you have any trouble viewing the webinar or with your audio, please email Matt Higbee at mhigbee@cfgnh.org. If you are having trouble hearing us, you can phone into the webinar instead of using the speakers on your computer. The webinar will be posted on both of the Foundation's websites next week. From these websites, you will be able to click on all the hyperlinks that you will see throughout the presentation to access documents and web pages. The Community Foundation for Greater New Haven was established in 1928. It is one of the oldest and largest community foundations in the United States. We just celebrated our 90th anniversary last year. It remains the largest grant maker to not-for-profits in our 20-town region in the heart of Connecticut. The region includes the 5 towns served by our partner philanthropy, Valley Community Foundation, known as VCF, which was established in 2004. The Valley Community Foundation fulfills the mission of the Community Foundation in the Valley's unique 5 towns of the Ansonia, Derby, Oxford, Shelton, and Seymour, and Connecticut. The 2 foundations work collaboratively to address the needs of and seize opportunities for their service areas. And so you can see by the map that we cover the ring towns around New Haven, up the shoreline to Madison, out to Cheshire and Wallingford, and to the west to the Valley communities and Milford. The Community Foundation for Greater New Haven works with donors to achieve their charitable goals and with not-for-profits to build a stronger community. It distributes grants to not-for-profits, community programs, and leadership activities from over 1,000 individual donors, funds, often named for the person or the family. It offers access to resources and collaboration to meet charitable objectives. It convenes the community around important issues. It is the largest grant maker to not-for-profits serving Greater New Haven through a number of grant processes, which we will share further on in the webinar, as well as through donor advisors and through designated funds here. We distributed about $28 million in 2018 through all these funds. We manage an endowment that's valued at more than $570 million. We provide technical assistance to not-for-profits, staff, and board members looking to create a stronger impact in their community. And that area of work is Jackie Downing's responsibility, and she's a great connector and great resource to not-for-profits and their board. So if you haven't spent time with Jackie, then you are missing out on one of the treasures we have here at the Foundation.
Well, thank you, Sarah. This is Jackie, and I'm happy now to connect you with the resources that you have available in the community. So as you start your process about thinking about writing for a grant with us or with others, we do have resources that are available to you. Certainly the websites of the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, cfgnh.org, or valleyfoundation.org are resources. On there you will find lots of issue briefs that talk about current events and current challenges that are facing our communities, other organizations that are doing good work in those areas, and some of the priorities of the Foundation. Also on our website is the Nonprofit Management Resource Center. If you go under Strengthening Nonprofits, you will see Resource Center. In there, there are pages and pages of information that are targeted at board chairs, at workshops that are available throughout the community, and a list of alphabetical resources from bequests to websites of things you might encounter on a day-to-day basis. There's a big section on fundraising, all the different aspects of fundraising, procurement, everything that you might want to work on, as well as a link there to the New England Consultant Directory on the consultants page. On any consultant, there is consultant.org. There on the home page, there are resources for how to craft an RFP, how to vet consultants, and then a search function that links you to hundreds and hundreds of consultants that are working in the New England area. And you can narrow that down by the expertise that you're looking for. You'll be able to see their past clients. You'll be able to call references and understand what their fee structure is like. So if your upcoming proposal includes consultants, you might want to look there to get some resources as to how you're going to engage in that process. We also have givegreater.org, which can give you ideas about other organizations that are working in a similar field to see what else is out there as best practices in your field. And G&H Community, a place where you as a nonprofit staff person can share lots of information with others and ask questions of others. There's a chat function on there that's terrific, so if you have a question or an event coming, please share it at gnhcommunity.org. We also have on our website at the Community Foundation and on the website at the Valley Foundation the Community Index. The latest one was printed and was done in 2016. There is another one coming out this fall, but the data from the 2016 is valuable. There's a community progress report for you to access. There's a specific report about the Valley Community Index on their website as well. There are sub-reports for Brantford and Guilford communities. And of course, there's always the staff. We are accessible. Denise, Sarah, myself, Valerie Knight-DeGangi in the Valley, always accessible and eager to answer your questions. So as you prepare your proposal, we want to make sure that you're taking the proper steps in order to prepare. So before you're ready to write a proposal, you really need to do your research. You have to understand what other people are doing, understand your own priorities for this project and what you're planning on getting done, how the need for your program fits into the needs of the community and what you're doing. We ask you to look at identifying collaborators and partners. Sometimes this makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Collaboration is not a requirement of grants, but it is strongly encouraged to understand who is in the community doing something similar or something that would enhance the program that you are planning to offer. So think about who you can collaborate with or who you might partner with. We also want you to think about the potential funders that are out there. The Community Foundation is rarely the sole funder for any project, program, or organization. So we'd like to know about the other funders that are potential partners for you in this work. Any that are already confirmed are great to put into your proposal. We'd love to be able to hear about who's already on board and who has invested in their time and energy in what you're doing. And then think about the structure of your program and your request. Define your goals, outcomes, and measures. Prepare your preliminary budget and see how the Community Foundation's funds would fit into that budget to make it a balanced budget. Don't come to us with a budget that shows a gap. We want to know how you plan on getting all of the funds to execute whatever it is you're proposing to us. Write your implementation plan, which becomes the narrative for the grant application. Develop that fundraising strategy to talk about other potential partners. And then write your proposal fully out. We often recommend that you use a logic model to help you outline your grant. The logic model is required with a project or program application. It is not required with capacity building or general operating support. We'll define those as we go a little further. But a logic model is a great planning tool. When you were in school, you had to create an outline for your theme paper or your thesis. That's basically what a logic model is for you. So use that tool to create your outcomes, your measures, and to draft your activities. And then before you submit your proposal, have someone else read it. A significant other, a board member who's not really familiar with it, a staff member whose salary is not contingent upon that application, so that they can give you some honest feedback. If they have questions, then we would probably have those same questions. I remind you that the first stage of the review on responsive applications is paper only. We cannot pick up the phone, our reviewers cannot pick up the phone and ask you questions for clarification. So you need to write a compelling case in your application. So let someone else read it. If they have questions, answer their questions, make it clear for them, and then it will be clear for us.
Hi everyone, this is Denise Canning. I'm going to talk a little bit about the competitive grant eligibility requirements here at the Community Foundation and at the Valley Community Foundation. All applicants must be tax-exempt organizations under Section 501c3 or any applicable section of the IRS code. Or if an organization is not, they can come in and have a fiscal sponsor apply on their behalf that has that tax-exempt status from the IRS. Also, applicants must be providing services in at least one of our towns of our 20-town region. So applicants do not need to be located in one of our 20 towns, but the project or their service area must encompass one or more of our 20-town region. All applicants must adhere to a policy of non-discrimination. For those of you that have been on our applications, you'll see that we ask in our eligibility quiz, do you have a policy of non-discrimination? We take that very seriously, and our policy is on our website, so you can read our policy, but we expect all our applicants also to adhere to a policy of non-discrimination. Applicants who are previous recipients of a grant must be in compliance with their grant reporting requirements, and you'll see that's also a question we ask on our eligibility quiz. So if you have any doubt, you can give us a call and we can help you determine that. Projects that do not generally receive consideration include religious activities, endowment campaigns, travel, previously incurred debts, and funding deficits. And we do support requests for capital projects, and by capital projects we mean building renovations, equipment, vehicles, other depreciable items. We consider that capacity building, and because a lot of those requests are very large and we have a finite amount of dollars to give out, usually our support for capital projects are limited. Also, when we look at requests for capital projects, we evaluate them on the basis of what is the ability of these capital projects to enable the organization to better serve their constituencies or make a bigger impact in the community. And right now we're going to actually stop for some questions.
So the first question we have is, will we be able to download the slides from this presentation? Sarah?
Yes. The webinar will be up on our website, so probably by Monday, and so you can access the webinar and this PowerPoint presentation. And as I said at the very beginning, the links will be also active, so you can go right through the webinar to get to the links, or go to our website, either the Valley Community Foundation's website or our website on the grant seeking page to access any of the materials.
And second question, do you have examples of a logic model that we can reference? Denise?
Well, we have our blank logic model on our website, and we're also offering a nuts and bolts workshop that will go over, well actually we're offering a nuts and bolts workshop and also a logic model training workshop that Jackie will go over later in the presentation. So we will provide training to help you fill out the logic model. Also, our colleague Kara Strawn, many of you may know her from reporting because she is our staff person that monitors all grant reporting. She also is available to look at everyone's logic model until, I believe, March 23rd. So you can actually email Kara, her emails are going to be at the end of this presentation, your logic model or a draft of your logic model, and she can offer you some assistance and some feedback before you actually submit it with your project support application.
Okay, and welcome to Mavi. Denise.
So the focus of this webinar is our responsive grants process, but the foundation, the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, offers other processes. So we just wanted to go a little bit off of this list so we can talk about them. All this table can also be found on our website under Strengthening Nonprofit section. So we have a Quinnipiac River Fund. You'll see that the deadline has already passed, but these are for organizations that are working for the health of the Quinnipiac River, either through research or programming. We have a Neighborhood Leadership Program. These are for residents of New Haven or contiguous towns committed to making a positive difference in their neighborhoods. That has also passed for this year, the deadline date. Our Community Fund for Women and Girls, which has a gender lens of projects that organizations are implementing for the social and economic advancement of women and girls. That deadline has just passed. That was January 30th.
So consider it for next year, and you could look at our website at the end of November, beginning of December, for any one of those three programs. That's when the applications usually go live, the first week of December.
We have two strategies that our board is really focused on this year. This is a separate grant process from our responsive grants process. It's for organizations working to advance immigration integration and incarceration and community reentry. The deadlines for these processes haven't been established yet, but our colleague Caprice Taylor Mendez is responsible for these processes. So if you're interested in that, here is Caprice's email, and you can email her for some details about this year's process. Small grants. This used to be called year-round small grants, but now it's called just small grants. It's a rolling process. This is reserved for small organizations with operating budgets under $2 million or less. Therefore, requests of $7,500 or under. And typically, it's for a discrete project or capacity building effort. This application is not online. Everyone can just email me or call me, and I can email you the online application link. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get an answer, so it's a quicker turnaround. Nonprofit animal shelter grants. We have a large preference fund here that a donor has left us for the benefit of animal shelters. So we have a rolling animal shelter grant process for nonprofit animal shelters serving the greater New Haven area, including the Valley. And if you're interested in that application, you can just give me a call. Also, event sponsorships. This is also a rolling process. This application's online. It can be found on our website. These are for fundraising events, galas, annual meetings. It's for $2,500 or less. Organizations needing support for events that they generally use to raise money. We also have a new component to this year. It's called a New Haven Neighborhood event sponsorship. So if you are doing a block watch party or a festival in your neighborhood and you're looking for a small amount of dollars, you can actually apply under this sponsorship process. And if you're working with your neighborhood to promote, citizen or resident engagement. And the responsive grants. So this is, again, the focus of this webinar, what we're really going to be getting into with the nitty-gritty in this process. And this is for flexible funding. The deadline date is March 28th, 5 p.m. So please keep that in mind. And this is for both the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven and the Valley Community Foundation. It's an integrated process. And we'll go into the Valley Community Foundation processes in the next slide. But one of the big questions we always get asked from organizations is, can I apply for more than one grant through these different processes? So, for example, can I apply for a small grant, and can I apply for a responsive grant, and can I apply for a sponsorship? And the answer is yes. You can apply for different requests through different processes. We don't recommend that you apply for the same thing through 3 different processes, but if you have discrete different needs and want to come through year-round, you're looking for a faster turnaround of a decision, you can do that and come in for responsive grants for a different program or general operating support or capacity building.
Well, we do ask you to make a choice in the responsive grant-making process between the 3 types of applications.
This is the Valley Community Foundation list of grant opportunities. This can be found on their website under Impacting the Valley section. The Valley Community Foundation also has event sponsorships, but very similar to the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. It's a rolling process. It's for events, fundraising events for organizations. The Valley Community Grants, this is going on right now. If you are a small organization in the Valley and you are focused on civic engagement efforts, the deadline date is March 7th. That application is online and available on their website. The Valley Needs and Opportunities Grant, this is similar to the small grants, but it is $10,000 or under the request can be. And it's for any organization. You don't need to be a small organization. You can be a large organization. And if you're looking for a time-sensitive infusion of dollars for a project or capacity building, you can come under Valley Needs and Opportunities, and that application is online. And the responsive grants, again, it's the same portal. The applications are both on the Valley Community Foundation for Greater New Haven's website and the Valley Community Foundation website, but it's the same application. So
they all come to Denise.
They all come to me. So I'm going to pass it over to Sarah. She's going to talk a little bit about the responsive grants.
So as Denise said, today we're focused in on the responsive grants process. That's what we're here for. And as we've said a number of times, and sometimes you have to repeat it 3 times, I understand, and for people to understand it and keep it. It is the largest competitive grant-making process for both foundations, both the Valley Community Foundation and ourselves. It's jointly administered by the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven and Valley Community Foundation. Actually, the TCF staff, Denise and I, actually staff this process for both foundations. And we work with both boards around this. As a source of flexible funding, we can't stress that enough. Lots of times I have organizations call me and asking me what are the foundation's priorities and strategies. We do have separate leadership initiatives, but we've held on to the idea that we would be responsive and offer flexible dollars because as we've surveyed and interviewed not-for-profits at different times over the years, it keeps coming back that organizations need to have access to a source of flexible dollars that's not predetermined because life changes and we are in a very volatile economic climate where resources are being drawn back and so we aren't prescriptive about the types of funds that are available. And we are really looking for projects and organizations that are meeting real needs in our communities, and that's really where it starts. So it's truly responsive, and we only ask that you are meeting a need in our community or with our populations in one of our 20 towns or all of our towns. We're going to go over 3 grant types as we further go into the application, both the project, general operating support, and capacity building. So we're going to be reviewing each of those individually as we go on. This is really the only funding opportunity that either of the foundations have that considers multi-year funding at the time of your request. So if you really need multi-year support, and we do 1 to 3 years on the average, you need to ask it. Our reviewers, and Denise will talk about our reviewing process, many times ask us, gee, this organization, I really think needs 3 years of support in order to get this off and running. I'm surprised they're only asking for 1 year. If you're only asking for 1 year, that's all of the consideration you're going to get, because we're not going to second guess your thought about coming in only for 1 year when you could have come in for 3 years. Some people get disappointed because they do ask for 3 years and they say, you didn't give it to me. And so that's up to the discretion of the board. But if you don't ask for 3 years, you don't get considered for 3 years. And so I can't stress that enough. We can't second guess, or we're not in your head. We don't understand how you make those decisions, but you need to share that with us. And so as I said, 1 year or multi-year funding requests are considered through this process. And these are potentially for, as I said, larger investments. As Denise shared, a lot of our processes have an upper limit of $7,500, $10,000. The Women Growth Fund average size grant is about $9,000 or $10,000. The average size grant is anywhere between $20,000 and $35,000 on an annual basis. And we do a few, 4 or 5 grants that are probably $50,000 each of maybe 3 years, $150,000. And in few instances, because we have preferential language funds in the pool of funds that I'm going to talk about, we might give larger grants. And so if you look at our annual report and say, gee, this organization's got a 6-figure grant, that's amazing. It may be because we have a hard-to-use preferential language fund, like cancer research is one of those, where we have a good amount of resources in that area, and it allows us to give a larger grant to an organization. We are challenged in some of the issue areas because we don't have donors who've left funds for that type of purpose. About half of our funds in the grant-making pool are unrestricted dollars. The rest are really preferential language funds. As we said, that this is a read-only process, and so Jackie really gave you good guidance in making sure that you have all the answers to your questions in the application, because we will not be able to have an ability to go back and forth in the discussion with you in the first stage of the application. We can have conversations, lots of conversations like this in the second stage, and these will go over that a little bit more. So the big question people have is, how much money do you have? We have $1.6 million available to give to this responsive grant-making process. About $152,000 of that is Valley specific. We receive anywhere between 110 and 150 applications every year, so you can see that there's a big ask out there. We've spread that really wide. We don't make any predetermined, as I said, no special priorities for that, so invariably we get a lot of applications. About 40 to 60% of those applications in the first stage go to the second stage. The boards of each of the foundations make the final decisions about who goes to the second stage for a site visit. The judgments of the Valley Community Foundation Board are central to the determination of the grants that are Valley specific, that benefit programs and organizations in the Valley. Many times there are partnership opportunities between the two foundations, and that's one of the lovely aspects of doing this process together, is we can identify a few, and usually there's about 3 or 4 organizations that are serving the broader area, and it presents an opportunity for the Valley to invest in it and also for the Community Foundation to invest in it. I gave you kind of the award amount of ranges. As we've been saying over and over again, we will say a number of times, the applications can be gotten through either the websites. It's the same application. So if you go to the Valley Community Foundation and are linking into the program project application, it's no different than if you went to the Valley Community, the Foundation for Greater New Haven's website. And I said Denise controls that tool, and yes, all those applications are she downloads into our system, and she is the person to go to if you have any technical issues about losing your link or forgetting your password or whatever kind of technology issues you have. Particularly, we find people have trouble in uploading their attachments to the application. I encourage you not to wait until the last minute, and we'll be repeating that one too, that advice.
Okay, passing that on. We do have a couple of opportunities for technical assistance in grant preparation. I would encourage seasoned grant writers as well as newbies to participate in these. We've seen many applications from long-standing organizations that have been part of the Community Foundation for a long time, still have applications that are not coming in as clean and tight and polished as they might be. So I would encourage many organizations, as many as possible, to participate in these workshops in some way. The first one is nuts and bolts. This is really the cheat sheet for preparing an application for the Community Foundation. We go question by question through the application, read the question, and talk about the elements of an effective answer. We're doing that this year as a webinar, and it looks like a 4-hour webinar. You don't have to participate in the 4-hour webinar. Hopefully by the end of the webinar today, or after the first half hour of the presentations on February 20th, you'll be able to decide which application type you are using: general operating support, capacity building, or project grant. Once you know that, you can listen in to the portion of that webinar that is relevant to you. You don't have to listen to the whole thing. So the first half hour is how do you choose the right grant application. You'll have the chance to ask questions there, and you'll be able to deep dive and understand which application is right for you. Then we are going to review in a little more detail than we did today the VCF Needs and Opportunities grants, the sponsorships and community grants from the Valley Community Foundation. They are much more nuanced than we talked about today. So if you are a Valley-based or Valley-serving organization, and that is Valley serving with the predominant population from Valley, not just you are statewide and include the Valley. If you are predominantly a Valley organization, then you should listen into that webinar at 9:30, and then we'll take 1 hour each on project, capacity building, and general operating support. So listen to those that are relevant for you. Then we'll be doing a second, this is an actual live workshop with our own Kara Strawn, who reads through and reviews logic models as part of the grant making process. On February 26th, we're planning it here at the Community Foundation, but if we have a strong and overwhelming response, we will move it to a larger space. We're doing a workshop on creating outcomes, outcome measures, and how to work with the logic model on February 26th. So often organizations are challenged on how to create the outcomes for what they're going to be doing. This is an opportunity to really be able to bring your thoughts of what you're proposing and to be able to get some hands-on help at that workshop. So we would recommend that you participate in all of those. They are free, they're open to everyone. There's no limitation to the number of people that can sign on to the webinar, and we encourage as many people as can to come to the Outcomes and Measures workshop as well.
The responsive grant application process, this is a two-stage process, so I'm going to go over the stages and the timeline with you. Here we are in February, so the applications are online. You can access them anytime you need to, or when you're ready to start writing your application. March 21st is an important date. So there are general operating support and capacity building applications that go hand in hand with our Give Greater profile, or your organization's Give Greater profile. So in the past, we've had the Give Greater profile, the updates or the creations due at the same time as the deadline date for the application. But this year, we're doing that a week earlier. So if you are applying for general operating support or capacity building support, make sure that your Give Greater profile is either created or updated by March 21st. Here is the Give Greater checklist that you can hyperlink into from our application, and it's also on our website. But this year, the difference is usually we ask you to have your executive director initial it and sign it, but this year we're not expecting that to be attached as an attachment, but we are expecting you to use it so all the fields are updated and robust, because our reviewers are going to be looking at your Give Greater profiles as part of your application. So it does go hand in hand. If you are looking for project support, it's not required that you have a Give Greater profile. But if you do, then you get a shorter application to fill out. So, and we do ask you to also update your Give Greater profile as part of that application. March 28th is when the applications are due by 5 p.m. We are very strict about this time, and the online application links will be deactivated at 5 o'clock. So please keep that in mind and do not wait to the last minute. I know it's human nature, but if you're having trouble at 10 of 5 attaching some of your applications, you may, attaching some of your attachments on the application, you may not make that deadline, and all your hard work will be in vain because we are shutting off the link.
You can attach your attachments at any time. You don't have to wait until you finish writing the application.
Now, once you get all your applications, then what happens? So what we do here at the Community Foundation is we recruit about 50 community and staff reviewers to come in, have an orientation, and review all these applications. So your application will be reviewed by 3 reviewers, and all the reviewers have a score sheet which are on the website. We recommend that you look at these score sheets so you're familiar with what the reviewers are going to be using as criteria to score your application. So we gather all these scores and we present them to our board, which is at the end of the second stage, which is the next slide. But the reviewers that we recruit are very broad. They have different expertise and knowledge in different issue areas. They're also from a broad spectrum of all our 20 towns, so we recruit people from the shoreline, from the valley, from New Haven, from the northern suburbs, and some of them are donors, some of them are past grantees, and we also ask them to disclose any conflicts of interest or any conflicts. So if they're on your board, obviously they're not going to be able to read your application, so we're very mindful of that. So that's almost the end of stage 1. So with the scores, we gather all the reviewers back in for what we call a debrief. So we talk about the scores and we hear from them what they saw as strengths to your applications and concerns. We also are able to share with you all the score sheets. So you'll be emailed all the score sheets so you can see the comments from the reviewers and your physical scores. We bring all these scores to our board. So this is when the split happens with Valley applications. So all the scores for Valley-specific applications will go to the Valley Community Foundation Board, and all the rest will go to the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven Board. They will take a look at all the scores and make determinations as to the applications that are moved on to what we call stage 2. So as Sarah mentioned before, 40 to 60% will go on to stage 2, and the rest of the applicants will unfortunately be denied. And during that denial phase, Jackie, Sarah, and myself are available for phone calls. We set aside about 3 weeks to have phone calls with applicants that are denied to talk about the scores, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the applications, because for those of you that know Sarah, she always likes to say a no is not a no forever. It's a highly competitive docket, as you can imagine. We always get about 5 times the amount of requests that we actually have money to give. So unfortunately, we just can't fund everybody. But every year is a different docket and with different reviewers. So we don't want you to be discouraged to trying again the next year if you're denied in this process. So during the summer, we have full reviewers that come on board, and they will do site visits, reference calls. They will have back and forth with you, conversations, emails, because what they're charged with is to do what we call an analysis of your grant application to bring to our board. Our board of directors do not see your applications. They do not read your applications. They get an analysis which summarizes your organization, your project, if it's a project support application, strengths and concerns that we have of your organization. We'll talk about your evaluation processes, your budget. Also, for those of you that have your general operating support requests and capacity building, we also provide them a link to your GiveGrader profile. So our boards of directors are looking at your GiveGrader profile. We cannot stress enough how important it is to update your profiles, because we've had comments from our board in the past that there's been some outdated information on the profiles, and they are reading them. They're looking at them. So it is really important to have everything up to date. And then September, October is when the funding decisions are made by the boards. So once you get on our website and choose the application that you want, you'll get this login screen. So most of you are probably familiar with seeing this. So you'll see this login screen when you're looking at a new application or when you're logging into your account as well. So if you don't have an online account, you'll see this login screen and you'll want to click on New Applicant. That doesn't mean you're applying for something new. That means you do not have an account. So if you click on New Applicant, then the system's going to ask you to create an account. So they're going to ask you for your email and your password. This is something you're making up. And then you're going to receive an automatic email from me that reiterates your password. So please keep that somewhere safe so you have access to your password. If you don't remember your password, then you can, and you have an account, you can enter your email and click on forgot password, and the system will send you a password. So once you are in and working in your application, I can't stress enough how important it is to click on the bottom, Save and Finish Later. Because if you don't do that, then your information won't be saved. When you click on Save and Finish Later, you're going to get an automatic email from me that says your application's been saved successfully, and then a link to your account, because it's a different link. People get confused with the link on our website versus the link on the account. So just think of it that if I have a saved application, then it suddenly becomes on my account. It's not going to be on the link on the website. So again, please try to save that somewhere safe so you have your account link. And when you click on your account, you should see all your in-progress applications. And as Sarah noted before, just call me if you're having trouble, because we don't want you to suffer in silence. You can just call me and we can help you.
Think of Denise as your helpline. Yeah, the person you go for help.
So we're going to stop for some questions. Okay, we have a couple of questions that relate to, can organizations apply for multiple responsive grants? Can they come in for project support and capacity at the same time? Sarah?
We do not encourage you to do that. We have organizations who've tried that anyway, and we ask them to make choices. It's really, when you think about the competitiveness of this process, in fairness to everybody, we ask that you make choices. We don't want to make that choice for you. So I would encourage you to choose what is the higher priority for you. Is it project program support? If you're eligible because you've gotten a competitive grant from the foundation before and you're 5 years old, you want general operating support, then I encourage you to go after that, because that's very flexible funds, and you could fit capacity building or project support in that type of application. But you need to make hard choices. We all have to make hard choices in these times, and so I would encourage you to choose which application really is the appropriate one for you at this time, and that's because it's your higher priority need.
And Sarah, I'm going to throw the next question to you as well. How do you become a community reviewer?
Call me. I'm recruiting them right as we speak. We sent out our first request, I think 3 weeks ago. Yeah. It was 3 weeks ago already. It seems so long ago. It actually takes me about 2 months to recruit 50 people. I am very lucky. I have more than half, and that it really works out the best. More than half of my reviewers are seasoned reviewers. I have some people who've been with me for 10 years or more, and I really respect and appreciate their perspective, but we're always looking for new perspective. I have a real challenge in reaching and getting very diverse reviewers, and I have to see, because I have some men in this room, I have to say it, I don't get enough men volunteering to be reviewers, and so, you know, men, if you're a man yourself, I really encourage you to volunteer. Love to have you. We need more male perspectives in the process. So call me if you're interested. The one caveat is that you cannot be have submitted an application and be a reviewer at the same time. If you're off, if you already have a grant that's going into the second and third year, and you're not applying this year, it's a great experience. I have a lot of different not-for-profit EVs and development people who've come and been a reviewer because it's an interesting perspective to get it from a funder's point of view, a view of other people's applications and how they measure up. And a lot of organizations have found that, gee, I didn't think about it in that way, and it gives me an assistance to thinking about how I could write a better application. And those lessons are not just for this foundation and being successful in our process, but for any funder. What we're asking for in our application are not unusual kinds of questions that any funder wouldn't be interested in wanting to know about you. And so you'll see how important writing concisely and completely in applications, why that's so meaningful. And to get an opportunity to hear the kind of discussion that goes around the table at these debriefing sessions when you have 25 to 30, we have so many reviewers, we have to do the deliberation in 2 sessions. But when you see the discussion around it and have an appreciation, one of the things I've had feedback from not-for-profits is that I didn't realize how serious you took this and how thorough you are. And I'm so impressed with the reviewers you have around the table. And Denise and I, many times, Jackie, look around the table when we're having briefing sessions, and we're just in awe of the individuals who are giving the kind of time and taking it so seriously and providing the input and the perspective, things that we might not have individually have thought about some of these applications that they bring to the fore that are really critical thoughts in making good decisions about who should be presented to our board as real possibilities for investment. So if you're interested, call me.
Okay, Denise, the next question. Can we get a sample of a responsive grant application?
All the applications are online, so you can just go online and create yourself an account, or if you already have an account, you can just see all the applications. Organizations think I actually can see what they're doing, and I can't, so you don't have to worry about that. I only see applications after they've been submitted here to the Community Foundation. So go ahead and just take a look at them all, and you can just click in and see what they're all about.
If you're thinking about a completed application, that's a different question. And I would encourage you to go to Jackie's Nuts and Bolts webinar, because in those webinars, she shares with you what a good answer looks like to some of our questions. And so if you're looking for sample answers to some of our questions, that's where you'll get an up-close view of that.
Okay. And the last question that we have is, will the Logic Model workshop be a webinar? The answer to that is no, it will not be a webinar, because as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a lot of work, table work, so you'll be working on your application. That would be a pretty boring webinar. So we're going to not do it as a webinar, but as we've said, it is available, the help in doing your logic model is available from Kara Strawn if you're not able to make the workshop. Okay, we're going on to the guiding principles of the Community Foundation. The Community Foundation for Greater New Haven and its partner in philanthropy, the Valley Community Foundation, are committed to supporting nonprofit organizations that strive toward providing the highest quality services and advance ideas, innovations, and techniques that improve the quality of life of our residents. It is the belief of the community foundations that the best use of the community's endowment is to invest in nonprofits that display certain leadership qualities, certain guiding principles that will make sure that our funds are best invested. So we're asking that organizations display leadership in addressing issues and seizing opportunities in the community. We're looking for organizations that regularly perform evaluation of their services and practice sound programmatic and organizational management. So leadership, evaluation, and management are the guiding principles of the Community Foundation.
That's available on the website.
These guiding principles in the full document are available on our website under Strengthening Nonprofits in the grant making section. So if you want a chance to read over it, you're welcome to go there. Leadership, how we look at leadership is how your organization, your staff, or your board is recognized as a community resource in the field. Are you working with others to advance best practices? Are you often cited in newspaper articles as being a provider? Do people turn to you as a resource? Do you sit on committees or work groups that exchange best practice ideas? That's leadership. How is your board involved in setting vision for your organization? Do you have a current strategic plan? Was that a board-driven process? Does the board revisit that and work on that? Is your board stepping up in the leadership of creating the vision for your organization? And are your programs and services on the cutting edge of your field? Are you doing something that no one else is doing? Are you out there moving forward and you're creating something new and innovative that makes you a leader in your field? That's how we look at leadership. We look at evaluation in not only do you have clear goals set and how are you going to measure your progress toward those goals, but what are you learning through the evaluation to improve your programming? Do you have benchmarks at which you are trying to achieve certain goals? Do you evaluate midterm and redirect your programming based on that evaluation? How do you integrate the evaluation into your planning for next time out? In your application, you'll have the opportunity to talk about and cite examples of success. If you're in general operating support or capacity building, those are applications that give you a chance to have a track record and be able to cite for us. If this is a new project or program, you'll want to talk about what those goals are and how you think you're going to get there. And we want to include quantitative and qualitative data. You may not have both in all cases, but give us what you can to talk about how you evaluate what you have learned and how you use that learning, and how constituents are designed into your program. Don't make evaluation an afterthought. If you need to say that, for instance, if you're doing an after-school program and you say you're going to improve grades, how are you going to capture those baseline grades so that you know your progress? Talk about integrated into your program how you're going to capture the data that helps you evaluate what you've done. And sound management. Does your board regularly conduct review of your executive director? Does your revenue come from appropriately diverse sources? We like to see that there's individual fundraising as well as foundation support, as well as fundraising event support. If government is appropriate, some government support. Fees for service. If you have fees for service, even on a sliding scale, it's nice to know that you're earning some revenue. So you should have diverse sources. If you have an adequate cash reserve, the benchmark in the field is 3 to 6 months. No one has that, don't worry. But it's nice to know if you do have money. Having money in the bank is not going to tell us we don't need to support you. It's going to tell us that you have a good, strong organization, that you're fiscally sound, that you're well managed, and that you have sound management. Is your board involved in fundraising? This is critical, and it's a piece that often people skip over because the answer is no. So now's the time to start activating your board in a fund development plan. And how is your board involved in the fundraising? Does your board contribute financially? We don't want to know how much. We want to know how many. What percentage of your board is contributing personal funds to your organization? That should be at 100%. And what financial reports does your board review and with what frequency? Are they getting treasurer's reports? And does your treasurer fully understand what those reports mean? What kind of actions are your board taking during the year in order to keep things moving? And now we're going to go to Sarah on the different types of grant applications.
I just want to go back and emphasize the evaluation piece that Jackie had shared with you, right? You know, more and more as we've worked with organizations, we've begun to appreciate reflection and ability to reflect. We try to do that ourselves and reflecting about our processes and evaluating and getting input from not-for-profits. And we do on a regular basis with our reviewers. Every time we do this process, we ask reviewers how we can improve the process. And so it's really important for you to be talking to your constituency, both at the very beginning of the design of your program to make sure that you're meeting their needs or their challenges or their barriers or their issues. And that's reflected in the kind of curriculum or the program design that you have. And then you have an opportunity to reflect back with them as to whether you are meeting their needs or accomplishing what you said you were going to accomplish them. So I have become, as I've been here at the Foundation, have a real appreciation for organizations who have a regular feedback loop with those that they're serving or working with, and have found that those are the more powerful programs in terms of making a difference in our communities. So I just want to do a plug for that, and I'm sure you're going to hear more about that if you go to the Logic Model workshop. So now we're going to talk about the responsive grant-making types, and again, I really want to caution you to really choose which one is the one that fits you. For those who are coming for the first time to the competitive process, either for the Valley or the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, the project support application is the one for you, as well as the capacity building one. Is project program support the really important need that you have, or do you have a capacity building need, either technical assistance or a capital project you need to have, and making a choice? And those are hard choices to make. I understand that. But we're not the only funder in the world, as much as sometimes we feel very lonely in that position, being in this region. But make that choice. And if you need some guidance around that, that's what Denise, Jackie, and I are here for. So if you want to use this as a sounding board about help in making that choice, please reach out to us. We are very accessible. Our schedules might be tight, but we will find time because this is important. This is the most important thing we're doing right now over the last couple of months, and so we want to be available to you and help you make those right choices. We want you to put your best foot forward because this is a read-only process. It's not intended to trip you up. We are not interested in that, and that's why we offer so many technical assistance opportunities like the nuts and bolts and the logic model. Logic model this year because we know that people have had trouble with it in the past. And so, again, we're not interested in tripping you up. We want you to make good choices and do really well in the process that you choose, whichever application you choose. So I wanted to emphasize because although we like innovative and new things, you don't have to be innovative or particularly new. You might be innovative in the way you do your old and true work. We are very interested in supporting existing projects and existing work because we know that sometimes there's a need for support in a timely way to keep something going in the community, and the Foundation has been in a position of helping really meeting critical needs in the community by investing in something that's tried and true and in the existing program. So I don't want people to be twisting themselves into a pretzel and thinking about what can I do to attract funding from the Foundation. That's making it really difficult for yourself because finding resources just to continue the work that you're doing, the good work you're doing, is challenging. I know you probably think about that, especially if you're the one that's fully responsible for making resources available with your board to come and do the good work you're doing. So just tell us what need. It always starts with a need in terms of what are you doing in the community that's meeting the real need in the community. That is, and what you're passionate about, that is what comes across in your application is when you are focusing in on how important it is that you serve this community or a population. And as I said, no is never no forever. I've had organizations who have been very frustrated because they've come through this process maybe once, twice. A third time is the charm, I think. I've had organizations who have used this, and there's not too many foundations that are willing to sit with you over the phone or in person and go over what was good or what was challenging in your application and help you shore that up or challenge you to think about how you could work that different, or give you examples, or give you connections in the community to make your application better. And as I said, this is not just to be successful here at this foundation, but to be successful with anybody you're going asking for money for. So use us. Use the score sheets. I know it's challenging to hear the critique. I've had many organizations say, I don't agree with what the reviewers said in the comments. I just don't think that that's fair. Well, there might be a reason why they said that, because it wasn't clear in what you wrote. They can't read between the lines. And even if they don't all know you, as much as we'd like to think that people know who we are and what we do, because you do important work. Not everybody does know you, so you have to write your application as if they don't know you at all. And there are attachments to this one. Excuse me, both the project model, and the budget. Pay attention to the list. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is capacity building, which is the other application that anybody who wants to come to the foundation can look for. And again, make your choice. If you're going through a succession, a need to transition leadership, you might want to come for technical assistance about a consultant who can help you with that. This is really intended for short-term financial assistance to build the infrastructure of your organization. It's for long-term success. It is not intended to support staff costs. If you're looking for support for staff costs, that could be included in your budget for project program support, or if you are eligible for general operating support. General operating support is truly flexible dollars that could go to staffing, new staffing, or existing staffing. This is not the source for staff support. We don't consider that capacity building. We're asking organizations to have a Give Greater profile. It makes the application shorter for you. The reviewers, and as Denise said, our board members do go to the Give Greater profile to learn about you. The Give Greater profile gives you the opportunity to connect to your website as well. So if you have a very robust website, the individuals can get to your website as well as see your mission, vision, and your programs on the profile. So types of capacity building requests. It's not limited to board development, strategic planning, evaluation, but also could include capital expenditures, including equipment, building renovations, or relocation. And as Denise cautioned you, we have $1.6 million to give. That's not a lot of money when you think about capital projects that tend to be very large budgeted items, but we could be a piece of it. We could be a part of it. So consider that. I've had individual organizations ask for like $500,000 or $400,000 at one time, and when you think about that being a third of what we have available to give, it seems to be pretty unlikely that we would be able to do that kind of level. But we could be a part of it, and we could be part of helping to leverage other kind of support. I know that many times other funders ask, well, what has the Community Foundation done for you, particularly if they know of us? I encourage you that if you have a current grant with us or a relationship or have been funded by us, to utilize us. I've had national funders reach out to us through the Community Foundation and say, I understand. In fact, I have a call with another funder tomorrow who says, I know you're funding this organization. Can we have a short phone call? And because I want to hear your perspective or your insight about why the foundation is supporting this organization. So use us. We could be useful in helping to leverage other funders to pay attention to you and to consider investment in you. And we'd like to play that role because we know we can't meet all their needs. And so it's wonderful, especially if we can get a national funder to come in to this region, because we are a small community. We will many times get overlooked for New York or Los Angeles, and we'd love to be able to be a leverage to bring funds here into this community to work with issues that we have here. So it has been a change. Last year ago, before last year, you had to be incorporated for 5 years and have gotten a considered grant. But that's no longer true for capacity building. We realized that that was an unfair expectation, that there were many times that we might want to be invested in an organization that was younger than 5 years, that's emerging, that had some capacity building needs that didn't fit into the small grants opportunity that needed more than 7,500. So we wanted to make this available to a broader group. So capacity building application might be the right one for you. General operating support. Now this is the source of the most flexible dollars. It's really to further your mission and work of the organization rather than a specific purpose or project. You could talk about in the application that there might be a particular need, but we're not asking you to be descriptive. We ask for an overall budget of your organization, what the budget is for the year that you're asking for investment for the foundation. We're not asking you to identify a particular cost on your budget that you would put the foundation money in, because that changes. And before, we used to ask people to identify an area in the budget that we were going to be covering. And invariably, we had organizations that came back to us and said, you know, before the year is up, life has changed. We lost this funding. We really would like to use your funding for a different purpose. And we felt, and more times than not, we would say yes. And so we decided we needed, and we listened to not-for-profits. We brought them in and asked them about this. And we said, you know, you're working with your organization on a day-to-day basis. You know where the money needs to go. And we have a trust that you're going to use the money the way what you need to. So you can talk to us about what might be the needs that are going unmet in your organization, but you don't have to specify how the money is going to be used in your budget. It's truly intended to be a flexible source. We do ask you to answer in your application about why the foundation to support your organization at this time with general operating support. What is going on with your organization that you need an investment right now? And as we have said, and we'll say a number of times, is that it's very unlikely that we're the sole source of support of anything. And so who are your other funders and what kind of commitments you have? We ask for you to identify those that are commitments here and now, or those that are pending or potential commitments from funders. And we ask you to help us understand what is your long-term funding strategy. And it doesn't need to be fully articulated, but we want to know that you're thinking about those things, about how you can support your organization in the long term. What is your board's and your organization's plans for its future? And that may be sharing your strategic plan with us, it may be sharing a fundraising plan with us. We know that some organizations are winding down with a particular funder, and so they have to think about proactively how they're going to support their organization in the future without that. And so we want to know what your strategy is, and we really encourage you to share that with us. And as I want to say and reemphasize, that if you're asking for general operating support, you're going to have to be incorporated at least for 5 years. You're going to have gotten a responsive grant from the foundation or the Valley Community Foundation, and you're going to need a published GiveGrader profile. And this application also includes attachments, particularly your budget for this coming year and also your budget from the previous year, but there's a whole list in the application that you need to attend to and make sure that you upload to your application. Okay. Questions?
So we're going on. We talked a lot about the GiveGrader profiles. Many organizations already have. We have more than 400 organizations on GiveGrader at this point. I know there's been a great deal of confusion with GreatGive and GiveGrader. There are two separate websites, two separate reasons for two separate websites. The GreatGive is an abbreviated profile. It is just your mission statement, and you have the opportunity to go in and put in giving levels, and it is used. You can now go there and see your organization. For the 36 hours of the giving event, there is a donation page for your organization, and as soon as the giving event is over, that disappears. So the thegreatgive.org is a short-term opportunity. If you do not have a Give Greater profile, you are still welcome to participate in The Great Give. You can go there now and register your organization. But as I said, when the giving event is over, the opportunity for fundraising with that disappears. GiveGreater.org lives 24/7, 364. Not during the giving event, but for the rest of the year. GiveGreater.org is a much more robust profile of your organization. It interfaces with GuideStar so that when you fill in your fields on Give Greater, that will automatically upload to your GuideStar profile, which will improve your rating. They have bronze through platinum ratings, so you can get a better GuideStar rating by updating your Give Greater profile, which will upload for you. And the Give Greater profile must be used as an integral part of your application with capacity building and general operating support. It is optional for project support. If you use it for the project support application, you get an abbreviated application. So there's much less to answer on that because you've already given us the information on Give Greater. If you are creating a Give Greater profile for the first time, there are fields that are required to be completed before the profile can be published. Those fields are different than the fields that necessarily are those that contribute to your application. So I recommend, if you have an existing profile, take a look at the checklist that is part of the grant application and understand those fields to which we are sending reviewers specifically for information. If you do not have a Give Greater profile, the first step is being sure that you get a published profile. And the second step is then looking at that checklist to make sure that those answers that are above and beyond the requirements are also addressed before the March 21st deadline. We need time to be able to turn that around and publish it for our community reviewers. So it's going to take us a week to be able to review all of those profiles. That's going to be a tight turnaround, but we know that you need time to do that as well. So if you are doing general operating support or capacity building, you must have a profile. It is optional for the project or program application. If you are awarded a responsive grant in the project category, you will need to complete a complete profile by the time the grant year is over in 2019. That would be October 2019. So you will have to complete that. And if you have any questions, you can check with our colleague, Stephanie Chung. Her email and phone number are on the slide. Stephanie is very helpful. She will hold you through the entire process of creating it. She will also open it up for you if you need to do that. If you need to open a profile for the first time, you need to provide Stephanie in writing with the legal name of your organization, the primary contact person, and that primary contact person's email, as well as your EIN number. That's all that it takes to open up a profile. And if you identify that you're opening it up for a grant application in an email to Stephanie, that she'll open that up for you promptly, and you can get started on that. A full profile takes 12 to 20 hours to complete, but there is no deadline. You can go back and save it bits and pieces. So make sure that you have that done by March 21st. We just talked a little bit about the Great Give, and I can't miss an opportunity to do another commercial for the Great Give. The registration is open. You can go to thegreatgive.org. That is voluntary. It's a very simple profile. It'll take you probably 15 minutes to get it done, and you will be able to participate. The giving event is May 1st and 2nd, 8 a.m. on May 1st to 8 p.m. on May 2nd, and it is different than the Give Greater profile. This is not a requirement for grants. We don't take a look at who's participating to see who we're going to give grant money to. They are exclusive of each other, but it's an opportunity for you to have one different fundraising tool in your arsenal.
You want to talk about that technical assistance you to people? That'd be great.
Oh, we also have a series of, like the support for responsive grant making, we also have a series of webinars and workshops for the Great Give that will give you kind of a leg up in reaching out to your potential donors. We have one coming up next week, a webinar on peer-to-peer fundraising. Organizations that use peer-to-peer fundraising tend to raise 300% more than those that do not. So if you have a network of stakeholders that you can engage as peer-to-peer fundraisers, they can go out and cheerlead for you and get those funds in. We're also doing a boot camp, which is a full day, 9 to 3, full day session on creating a really effective profile, on creating a marketing plan that engages social media, snail mail, whatever is relevant for your organization, events, and however you want to go for that. We'll talk about how to strategize around the prizes, and that's a workshop that is happening at the beginning of March. And the next day, our team from GiveGab, our host, is staying and doing office hours, so you can have one-on-one work for half an hour with a marketing pro to sit you down and figure out how best to maximize your participation in the Great Give. So all of those opportunities are available on thegreatgive.org. At the bottom, there's a nonprofit toolkit that has logos and all kinds of information and 15-minute webinars that will give you insight into all of the opportunities for training.
So if you are awarded a grant, there are some conditions to being a grantee. First and foremost, we do ask that you report on the outcomes, the progress of your outcomes of your grant. Our colleague Kara Strawn reads all the grant reports, and every year she does what we call a grant impact report for our board of directors. So the board gets to see every year the progress in all that our grantees have made and the impact that they're making on the community. So we want you to know that your report is being read and it's being valued by staff and by our board. If you are a grantee and you don't have a GiveGreater profile, as Jackie said, then we do ask as a condition that you create one, or that you update if you have one every year. And if you're awarded a multi-year grant, then we ask for an annual report every year, and we look at the progress that you've reported on the outcomes that we've agreed upon with you, and then we actually do an update memo for our president and for our board, because these multi-year grants are conditional based on the progress that you make. So subsequent years of your multi-year grant are awarded every year based on the progress of your outcomes. So those reports are very important to us in terms of essentially awarding your subsequent year.
And we will be doing a workshop this year in the fall for those that have grant reports due in this October. We'll be doing a workshop specifically about reporting to the Community Foundation, how to report on the outcomes that you anticipated, and the kinds of things that we like to see in those reports so that we can use them to forward to our board so they understand the impact of your grant, and to the community. We often pull from those grant reports snippets of information that we push out through social media and through our own means to our donors to let them know the good work of their investment in this community. So we like to get the best data from you, the best anecdotal data from you as well, and good pictures. So we'll be doing a workshop in the fall that tells you what the things are that we're looking for in reporting.
Jackie, at the beginning of the presentation, talked about the people that we have here at the foundation that are your resources, so we just provided some of our information here. So Sarah, any general questions, you can give Sarah a call. I work really closely with Sarah, so if you can't get her on the phone, because she's in and out of meetings a lot and not always at her desk, then you can definitely call me and I can set up a time for you to meet with Sarah. And you can call me with general questions as well. Any technical support for the online application, stated that before, just give me a call and I can help you through it. Jackie is available for any general questions. The budget form guide, if you're looking for project support and you're filling out the budget form guide, if you have any questions about that, Jackie, you can ask Jackie about that. Anything about capacity building and our workshop opportunities, you can give Jackie a call. For all our Valley applicants, if you have any questions about the Valley grant processes that we went over in this presentation, you can give our colleague Valerie Knight-McGanty, who works in Derby at our Valley Community Foundation site. You can give her a call. Any questions about the logic model or your grant reporting, definitely give Tara a call, and as I mentioned before, she is available via email to look over your logic model, the draft of your logic model if you're filling out a project support application. If you get it to her by March 22nd, she can give you some feedback and she can turn that around. She promises 48 hours and she's good to her word. So you can have her feedback before you submit the logic model. And any questions about givegreater.org, you can give Stephanie Chen a call. There's her email, or you can just email. And we're looking to see if there's any other questions. And there doesn't seem to be any. Any other questions?
So this is the end of the webinar. Thank you for participating. As a reminder, the webinar will be posted on our website. If you have any questions about today's webinar or you would like items with application to complete, please email or call myself, Sarah Favish, Jackie Downing, or Denise Canning.